Hello. Now today the topic which I want to discuss with you is NAT-T. And this is not related to SD-WAN. This is basically the topic which can be used everywhere, either on SD-WAN or without SD-WAN. Okay. So let me explain that for each every one of you. And I hope this screen is visible. Just hold. Let me share my screen. So, so this is basically protocol NAT-T, and this is called NAT Traversal, right? So this is not rated to SD-WAN. This can be used everywhere, right? So let me explain what is NAT-T. What is NAT-T? This is called NAT Traversal. Okay. So this is very important concept. Okay, and it is used everywhere. Okay. So first of all, I believe that why NAT is required, right? Everyone will start from here. If you want to go for any interview, that what is NAT? It is called Network Address Translation. Okay, network address translation. Okay, so keep it simple. Let's say we have private IPs, right? And from private IP, let's say we have IP segment of 10. Okay, we have an IP segment of one. We have an IP segment of 172.16.x.x segment or 192.168 x.x segment. This is called private IP segment. So from this private IP segment, you cannot reach any public IP. Okay. So for that you need NAT, NAT device. Okay. So what NAT device will do, it will change the source IP, okay, to public IP. Okay. And then you can access anything on the internet. Let me give you a simple example, right? Everyone, everywhere, everyone right now who are watching this video, right? Either on the phone or on mobile or desktop, anywhere, right? So if you do IP config, okay, you do IP config, you will find your IP to be private IP. 192, for example, your IP is 1.4, right? And if you check, you are reaching internet, right? You are able to reach Facebook, you are able to reach Google, right? Anything you check, you are able to reach, right? So how you are able to reach, because your IP is private and you are reaching 8.8 or Facebook IP. So it means some NAT devices there is there, right? And the NAT device is residing in your home, right? In your workplace. It can be your, for example, your modem at your home, your modem or at your router, right? Or in your office. It can be your firewall, right? And what this device do normally, it will change the private IP to public IP. Okay, and this is the beauty of NAT device, right? So router can perform NAT, firewall can perform NAT, and there are multiple NAT as well, right? So in router or firewall, right? If you give me post some comment, I will explain type of NAT as well. We might have source NAT, okay? We might have destination NAT, okay? DNAT. We might have U-turn NAT, okay? there are multiple types of NAT, right? In source NAT also we can go in detail. In destination NAT also we can go in detail. In router NAT also we can go in detail. But this topic is mostly on NAT-T. So what is NAT-T, right? And why we have to use NAT-T? Even if you are working in security, right? Security domain, and if you are configuring site-to-site VPN, okay, site-to-site VPN, then anyone will ask you what is NAT-T, right? In which scenario on Palo Alto firewall or any firewall, right? We have to enable NAT-T, right? Suppose you are on SD-WAN, you are doing SD-WAN, right? Even in SD-WAN also you have to enable NAT-T on firewall. In which case I will explain. NAT-T should be enabled, right? So let me start from basic SD-WAN concept, right? So in any edge device, V edge or C edge device, okay, V edge. I hope you have seen my earlier videos as well. V edge or C edge device. So we have transport, right? We have internet transport. This is internet transport, internet connectivity that will reside on this interface. It is, let's say, gig 0/0/0. And then this is, we have to assign some color. We can say, okay, this color is, for example, this color is green, let's say red. Okay, for example, this any color you have to define, right, for this circuit. So this is, we have to assign one public IP here. Let's say 1.1.1.1/30, and the next public IP will be on ISP side. Okay, 1.1, 1.2, and then I either if it, if it is an hub and spoke or it is mesh, it depends on the architecture, right? What policy or centralized policy you have configured for this, right? So what will happen? Your IPsec will form, IPsec tunnel will form, IPsec tunnel, right? In SD-WAN, you don't have to do manual configuration. IPsec tunnel will form from one side to different site automatically, right? Once you configure your site, let's say I have A site and B site, right? So after few control traffic, the data plane traffic will have an IPsec tunnel, right? And that IPsec tunnel will build because you have public IP on both side, public IP on both side. So there is no need of NAT here, okay? Because this is directly connected on the V edge or C edge. So NAT-T in this case is not required, okay? Now let me explain, because sometime even if you're working in routing as well, right? Your router, okay, will have firewall, okay, and on that firewall we have an internet connection, okay, and we have public IP here, okay, public IP here, and then we have private range here, okay. For example, this IP is 30, this IP is also 30, right? And then maybe the site will have same, this is at A site, A location, and B site will have same firewall, and then after the firewall we have router as well, right? Router, router, okay. We have public IP 1.1.1.1/30, 1.1.1.2/30. This is your internet cloud, okay. And then we have this public IP 2.2.1.1/30 and then 2.2.2.2/30, and then we have private range here. Okay, for example, 11.11.11.1/30, 11.11.11.2/30, and we want to have an IPsec tunnel, okay, from this router to this router, logical and IPsec tunnel, okay. Router will have an IPsec tunnel, right, from this router to this router. In this case, on the firewall, you have to do source NAT, okay, and then you have to enable ESP protocol port 50. ESP protocol has port 50 only, right? It don't work on UDP or TCP, okay. Then you have to enable IP's ESP, and then you have to enable UDP port 500, okay, for IKE traffic. IKE traffic is basically IPsec traffic, and then you have to enable, then you have to enable what type of traffic? UDP port 4500. This is also your. Let me explain you in detail, right? I will explain in detail what is required and what not required. And then I will explain in detail what is required. And the port number is UDP 4500, okay, and that is used once you enable NAT-T, okay. Then you require this port to be enabled, right? If this port is not enabled, right, this UDP port 4500 is not enabled, then your IPsec connection will not form. Okay, IPsec connection will not form. Okay, will not form. So if your wires are captured, right? If in your wires are captured, you are seeing UDP port 4500, okay, and or UDP port. This is basically in short. I'm explaining you 50. If you are seeing in wires are captured UDP port 50, it means IPsec is forming between both the device, and the device is without NAT, without NAT. And if you are seeing UDP port 4500, it means the traffic is on NAT, right? And there is a firewall on NAT device. So if you are learning seeing 4500, it means firewall. Without 45, port 50 is 4500. Let me explain. Not, I will just give you a short important thing, right? UDP port 4500. If you are saying in WireShark for IPsec, IPsec, it is NAT. Okay. Without UDP 4550, IPsec without NAT, without NAT, without NAT. Okay. So these are important thing, right? So if you do packet capture, you say, okay, I have UDP port 4500. You should be 100% sure that there is a NAT device. It could be a firewall, and that firewall is doing NAT, right? If there is a UDP port 50, it is without firewall. Now coming back to SD-WAN, right? So in SD-WAN, there are two possibilities, right? Either your V edge, right? I will draw one simple diagram. Your V edge, okay, will have direct internet, right? Okay, it will have direct public IP, and that will have connectivity to the internet cloud. Okay. In this scenario, right, there is no NAT is not required. NAT is not required, right? The site to site SD-WAN IPsec tunnel, right? IPsec tunnel will form on ESP port 50. Okay, ESP port 50, and here NAT is not required. Now, this is your first scenario, right? Second scenario, most corporate network, right, will have V edge, C edge, okay. Then they will have firewall, okay, and that firewall they have an internet link, okay. Public IP will have 1.1/30 on that firewall WAN interface. Let's say Ethernet 0/0, okay. V edge interface will be private IP. Let's say 1.1/30, 10.1.1/30, okay. Now, if this IP, okay, want to reach, right, other site, right, then what will happen? NAT, because other side will have also internet connection, right? NAT will happen on the firewall. It it is source NAT, okay. Let me explain in 5 to 10 minutes this whole scenario, right? So that you should be aware and you can easily do troubleshooting. Okay. So let me draw this through very simple diagram. This is not limited to your SD-WAN. Okay. This is limited to can troubleshoot any scenario. Okay. This is your firewall. Okay. This is your internet cloud. Okay. So let's say this is 10.1.1.1/30, 10.1.1.2/30. This is having public IP of 1.1.1/29, 1.1.1.2/29. So there are two options here. Two things will happen. First of all, this V is right will have a connection on with vManage. Okay, will have connection with vManage, vSmart. Okay, vBond. And for this connection, because this controller, right, mostly they are in cloud, okay, in cloud, and they are on public IP, okay. So you need to perform NAT on your firewall, and this NAT should be source NAT, okay, source NAT. So what will happen? Your 10.1.1.1/IP will be converted, will change to public IP of the firewall. It all depends whether you want to perform NAT with interface IP or you want to NAT with pool IP, right? And then it will reach to controller, right? Let's say it is vManage, vSmart, okay, or vBond. For this controller, the port is UDP, right? And it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This port should be open on the firewall. You need to perform. You have to tell them that okay. firewall team, right? I'm trying to troubleshoot, and do let me know whether source NAT. Just keep in mind that source NAT is required, which will change my public IP. Let's say my public IP is 10.1.1.1 slash. Okay, my port is 1.1.1.5.2.3.4. Any random port. Okay, change my port to firewall. Okay, firewall IP, WAN IP. Okay, 1.5. Either you can change this source port. This is source IP. This is basically source IP. Source IP should be changed to 1.1. Either you can change the source port or you can retain the same port. And destination IP should be your controller IP. That is your vmanage, vbond or vsmart public IP. For example, my vmanage IP is for example, my vmanage IP is 5.5. Vbond IP is 6.6. vsmart IP is 7.7. So create a role, right? Then it will raise to vmanage 5.5, and for port UDP port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Similarly for vmanage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then in the same way you need to configure for vmanage. But in vmanage, uh, ठीक है. but for vmanage, what you have to do, you have to open one more port for vmanage, right? And that is for, let's say my vmanage IP is 7.7.7.7. The port is UDP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And apart from this, TCP port 443 is also required for vmanage, because vmanage normally you use in vmanage, you use GUI as well, right? So for vmanage UDP port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, TCP port 443. Okay, so this is source that is required for the controller. Okay, now for IPsec, what will happen, right? This is required for controller. I'm not talking about any netting, NAT-T here, right? Because this is not an IPsec traffic. This netting is required for the reachability of the controllers. Keep in mind, controllers, right? Now, coming back to the same scenario, if you have VH or CH, okay, and then you have firewall, okay. On firewall, you have internet, okay, 10.1.1.1/30, 10.1.1.2/30. Firewall will have public IP, and this time we have to configure IPsec, okay, for A to B location, right? So in this, because we are talking about site to site VPN, right? Site to site VPN is a basically concept of firewall as well, but on SD-WAN router, normal traditional router, we normally configure, we have to configure phase 1, phase 2 IPsec, right? So in SD-WAN, those are things are not required. That will be created automatically, right? Apart from that, on the firewall, right? If this is a scenario, then the port number is UDP port number 50 need to be enabled, okay, for IKE, okay. But once your firewall see NAT device, okay, NAT device, then what will happen? This UDP 500 will change to UDP port 4500. Okay, and then your IPsec tunnel will form with all remote location. Okay, but the port number should be UDP 4500. So that this is the beauty of NAT-T, right? And this is not limited to, keep in mind, this is not limited to SD-WAN. Okay, don't say, okay, this will help me in SD-WAN also, right? Anywhere, right? If there is a NAT device, okay, and your internet link is not coming on your router or any L3 device, it is coming on the firewall, and then you have internet on the firewall, then simply say, here I have to enable NAT-T. The port number is UDP 4500. Earlier, without NAT, it will use UDP port number 50. Now, in my firewall, I have to enable UDP port 500, 4500. Then what will happen? Your IPsec tunnel, okay, will form from this source, okay, to remote location, okay. Remote location means remote IP, okay. Remote location means remote IP, okay. So A to B site will form IPsec tunnel over public internet through your firewall only. Keep in mind, only in case your NAT-T is enabled on the firewall. Either you are doing troubleshooting on SD-WAN or you are doing troubleshooting on your firewall. I hope this is clear to you now. Okay. Now the last thing on my YouTube. Okay, I have created multiple videos on SD-WAN. This is my third video. Okay, so do like and subscribe and post your comment. Okay, post your comment and let us know that how things are moving, right? And I will try to create multiple videos, right? Now, how the controller will come up, how the this troubleshooting you'll do with the controllers or with different site. If your comment will come, then I will prepare and I will upload multiple videos. Okay, thanks for your support and keep watching and do like and subscribe my channel. Bye.